All right, so welcome again. I hope you had a good spring break. Hope it was restful, eventful, exciting, whatever word that is positive here. And so tonight we're going to share a little bit. We had a team. If you want to throw up, Ian, there's a picture that just has Mission Arlington on it. No, not that one. On the announcements, it says Mission Arlington. Yeah, it's 29. Okay. So that's where we served over spring break at Mission Arlington. So tonight we're going to let some students share. If you notice, most of us are wearing our shirts from the trip, and they're very cool and simple, I'll say. But they're going to share, take maybe 3 to 5 minutes at most. No, we're not taking 10 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes. That way we can honor and let everybody who wants to share can share. And then at the end, I'm going to share a little bit about what the Lord was speaking over us during the trip and what we will do with that going forward as Chi Alpha Campus Ministry.
So I know, like, with Chi Alpha being here, doing it with college, it's different. Like, I know what it looks like to be on college campus and to minister and to do D groups and stuff. And so I always kind of wondered, because I know, like, outside, whenever you graduate and stuff, things are just slower. Whenever you actually hit life and family, things are slower. So I was kind of wondering, like, okay, well, what would this actually look like? So it was cool to, like, go in the apartment complex on Sunday and, like, knock on doors and get people and kids to come to the apartment that was within that complex. And I had to remember some of the Spanish, because the place that Ian and I went on Sunday, it was a lot of Spanish-speaking people, and so I had 3 years, so that whole week there was a lot of Spanish-speaking people, even kids, and so there's like Spanish that was coming back, which was cool, because at least that showed like we were trying to be able to speak to them as well, because that is important as well. So that was cool, and then also one of the days we handed out cheese, and they were like, you can get like the whole box of cheese away. And so we knocked on the doors and told them we were with Mission Arlington and was just like, hey, we have cheese, would you like it? And one of the ladies, we didn't know this at that time, but I think the next day or the 2 days after, we saw her as we were coming in for Rainbow Express, garage sale. And not the garage sale, giving away stuff that had been donated. And so she had stopped and she was talking to us and she was like, yeah, so the other day when she was just thanking us for bringing that to her, because she was like, I'm going through chemo right now and the insurance has just been hard, like, to pay for it and all of that. And so she was like, honestly, I didn't know what I was going to have for supper. And then you knocked on the door with the cheese and she ate the whole cheese for her supper. And so I'm like, you know what, God supplies and God provides for our daily meal. And so just wanted to give glory to God for even that opportunity. And a funny, so I'll do this as a funny. So Allie was following me, and I was supposed to be following Caleb, but he had left. And so we were going to the apartments, and I had the GPS on, and it said U-turn. And so I'm in a left turn. And so I said, hey guys, who was it? Ian and Quentin? Were y'all in my car? I said, yeah, y'all were. I said, hey, text them the group U-turn so that she would know to make a U-turn. Colton and Christine saw the message and never told Allie. So they were like, U-turn? What is U-turn? And then I was like, well, Allie will probably follow me whatever I do. And she did, thankfully. But after that, they were like, oh, that's what that means. So every time we made a U-turn, we'd put it in the text. It was so much fun. All right, next.
The one thing that I have to say, there's a lot of stories that go along with the Mission Arlington, and I'd be glad to share them, but most of them are just like funny stories that I have to say. But the one thing that I'm really bringing back from Mission Arlington is like the missionality of it. As Caleb was saying, like a lot of what we did was knocking on doors. And I'll be honest, I went to Mission Arlington a bunch as a kid. I went like 5 times in the past. None when I was over like 15 years old or something like that. But so when I went then, it was more just to hang out with friends. You know, I'd been in church my whole life. I was just going just to go kind of thing. So when I'd go knock on doors, I was always super nervous, because I was like, who knows who's going to answer this door? Who knows what their response is going to be to like a Christian, especially, like what is it going to be like? Because these apartment complexes, a lot of them don't know Christ, and that was the whole point of us being there. So then I was scared, but when I came this time, I had a whole different attitude. I was like, let me knock on all the doors. I'm excited. And so it was just a lot. It was really fun. I mean, knocking on the doors was probably my favorite part, just because you have to knock on the door. You didn't know who was going to answer. You didn't know what kind of conversation you were going to have. You didn't know what language they were going to speak. And you got to talk through Google Translate. My 2 years of Spanish, my summer on the farm with Quentin, working with Hispanics. We learned a lot of stuff. So talking to people was just a lot of fun. Also, just with the kids, that was a lot of the big points. It was ministering to kids and stuff. I work with kids here in Arkadelphia, so I was pretty much used to that. But it was still a lot of fun getting to hang out with kids, teach them about God and stuff. Just those. But anyway, so bringing back missionality to campus, I felt super called out, we need to be doing this. And I'll be honest, I've sat in my apartment a lot this year. I've not gone out and done as much as I want to. And so being missional, getting that missional mindset from Mission Arlington, something I've done in the past, that's rejuvenated my spirit now. I'm excited to go knock on doors. We actually did two apartments at Rich Point. We knocked on doors before service today to see if anybody wanted to come. So that's what I'm bringing back, is the missionality. I'm really excited for that, just to get back into it, get back into community, and start pouring into people just the way that God would want us to.
So one thing that we did before the trip is on Friday we met, and as a team we kind of had a team building night, and we played a whole bunch of games. But there was a prayer time that we did after, and Caleb had asked us what's something that you want to something that you want to pray for on the trip and stuff. And mine was I wanted to set an example, because I knew that we were going to be working with kids a lot. So just a few examples of as a group how we were able to set an example. There was one thing, it wasn't me, but when Quentin, so we started off and we had these devotional times in the morning, and there was this one woman who was leading service by herself, and then Quentin one of the days had asked if he could join and help lead service. And so he ended up doing that. And then I just saw a lot of because there was one group that was there that was just middle schoolers. And I saw all of the guys in that group just looking up to Quentin. I don't know if you noticed it, but it was just cool to see how everyone, because we were definitely the oldest group there. There was high school kids and whatever, but we were definitely the oldest group there. And so it was cool to be able to do that. And when we were doing sorting and stuff, we noticed we were sorting food one day, and there was just some other kids there that we were working with, they were doing their own thing and we had our own job, but they had stopped halfway through, and they were taking a break, and I'm not saying that they were doing a bad job or anything, but we saw them again looking up to us, and even though we were still having fun, and we weren't just all serious to be hey, you should do your job because you should, but that I think it was a good influence that we showed, that we were able to still have fun while still doing the work that we were supposed to do. And then something else from the trip that I got is giving. We did a lot of donations and handing out stuff, and that was really cool. And there was something that Caleb's dad was talking about in service yesterday, and it was you can never outgive God, and God will give you back. You reap what you sow, and He'll give you more than you gave. Not necessarily back in money, but I noticed when we had these jobs in the morning where we'd go knock on doors, we'd always finish pretty much early. And we, one day, I think we ended up finishing early because we kept doing stuff and they had literally nothing else for us to do. And we went home early for lunch. So I think that was pretty cool, even though it's not okay, he didn't give us back our time technically, but we were able to do everything that we were supposed to do. Yeah, and one person that stood out to me was definitely Garrett. Because like the whole time he was just like so excited to just help these kids or give out the free stuff or whatever, and it was super cool because I think that rubbed off on all of us. And so that was super cool having him there, being like our mascot basically, as the puppet as well. And yeah, and also just on these mission trips, because I've gone on a few, nothing ever goes to plan. And like, so I was in charge of games, and I had quite a few games set out, but every day we played Simon Says. That's the only game they wanted to play. So we ended up just playing Simon Says every day, and they loved it. And they kept asking if they could be the Simon. So anyway, but it was super cool, and I think that, I guess to advertise a little bit, literally our whole schedule there was doing our job, eating, taking naps, and then going back to sleep and doing Rainbow Express. So even though that doesn't sound like fun technically, I can promise you all of us had the most fun time just being together and doing what God wanted us to do. And I think it was so cool just being able to have fun just being there.
But first of all, I want to talk about my favorite parts of the entire spring break mission trip. Being the puppet wrangler. I absolutely love the puppets. Being Eugene, being able to just mess with Quentin the entire time, intentionally getting the memory version wrong.
Use the voice.
Use the voice. Good evening, boys and girls. It's me, Eugene. Today I'm going to learn about the memory verse.
You know the memory verse?
No.
The one who saves me.
And the one who saves me. The Lord protects my life, so why should I be afraid? It was great. I absolutely loved every second of it. My second favorite part was giving stuff away. I have never had more fun in my life knocking on someone's door and being like, hey, do you want food? And they're like, yes. And it's so great. I have to tell this one story about this sweet Hispanic man that me and Michelle met. I had no idea what he was saying, but I would die for him. I had not a clue what he was saying, but I loved him so much I would actually die for him. We knocked on his door, and we were just asking him, hey, we're with Mission Arlington, do you want some tea? He's like, no hablo inglés. And we were like, tienes queso? And he was like, oh yeah, sí. And he started grabbing some and he was like, uno? And we were like, más. He was like, dos? And we're like, más, more. And he just kept grabbing cheese, and it was just the best thing of my life. It was so much fun. I love watching people's faces light up when you just give them stuff. It's fun. But now I do have to tell this story about, all that stuff is exciting and all, but my favoriteest, most amazing part was on the very, very last day whenever we were leaving. There was a guy that I was talking to. He was one of our teenage people that came. He was just there to hang out with us. I'm pretty sure basically he saw the cool college kids and was like, I want to hang out with them. And I was like, sweet, what's up? Name here, because I'm not going to call him out. But on the very last day, I finally got to talk to him. I talked to him a lot about my testimony. I asked him like, hey, have you ever walked through salvation or anything? And he was like, kinda. And I got to talk to him afterwards I just told him, hey, do you mind if I tell you a little bit about my testimony? And I just started talking to him about my walk through depression and how there were moments in my life where I was kind of thinking about killing myself, genuinely, where it was kind of in the back of my head, but I never really decided on it, but it was just in the back of my head. That some days it was hard to find hope, that what's the point in living for today if I don't see a reason in tomorrow? Was one of the big dominating thoughts. And finally, I told him about how whenever I really started following God with all my heart, I had hope for another day. I talked to him about how there's hope for tomorrow, that whenever I follow God, how can I not have hope? How can I not have hope to go out there and just give away free stuff and watch people's faces light up and try and share them the same thing that I got? And he started crying internally. I did not do this out loud, so do not act like I did this out loud. But the moment he started crying, I was just like, yes! Because it was like, I got it. I got it. It was like, reel him in, hook, line, and sinker. But I just got to talk to him so much about it, and he finally opened up to me. It was just like, yeah, man, I've just been really struggling with depression, and it's been tough. I got to walk through him on salvation, and there were a couple times we were walking him back to his apartment, and I was looking back over it just kind of see his face. You know that time whenever you're really sad, but you're really trying to keep a straight face, but it's breaking, and like you just walk and you're just like, and he was doing that. I know he was like crying because we were leaving, but it was the best feeling for me because it was like, I made an impact on someone. I really did. And like Colton can tell you, as soon as he closed the door, and as soon as we like hugged him and said our goodbyes, I started like full on, gave Colton the full choreographed dance on the top of the stairs. As soon as we started driving back home, I blasted my own music on my speaker in Michelle's car. I was probably extraordinarily loud, but it was great. Absolutely loved it. That if this is what people do at Mission Arlington, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
That's just a great story. I am probably going to be a mixture of Hammy and Doug from Up. So hyperactive ADHD with my storytelling. So to start off, I figured I'd just do a simple one. So the apartments we stayed at, it was, the guy's side was not furnished at all. So we had cots, and we slept on cots. And the first night that we were there, I set up, I thought I had one of the decent cots, like I saw Colton's, and his was turned, like it's supposed to be straight, but it was not.
It was supposed to be a rectangle. Every time I wake up, it would be a parallelogram.
Straight up parallelogram. It was just rhombus. I'm a math major, if you can't tell. I almost said the big quadrilateral term, but I didn't want to. But anyways, so I was sleeping, and I'm gonna try to enact it. So I was sleeping, and it just like, it's a small cot, so I'm sleeping like this. But I woke up at 5 a.m. The bottom, or like the top leg, so there's 3 legs. There's one right here, like at where my shoulders are, there's one where my hips are, and then there's one like kind of where my socks are. The bottom one, like this right here, fell, so I woke up at 5 a.m. like this. The sad part is, I didn't wake up when it was falling. I woke up randomly just like that. So that means I fell and didn't register that I fell. So that's the first part that I was like, I woke up at 5 a.m. and if you wake up at 5 a.m., you're not happy already. And it took me about 10 minutes to fix the cot. And I was so upset. Anyways, all right, that's enough of that story. Like everyone has said, I'm not gonna repeat everything they said, but like the service projects were great. I was happy that I got a chance to do worship. If y'all didn't know, I kind of like it. I kind of was given the great opportunity to be the worship leader for Chi Alpha, so I love worship. So being able to do that with them, I am going to tell a little story about worship that I just want to applaud our group. So the lady who was doing worship by herself, her name is Bethany, and I'm not saying this is about them, the organization, but I will state that all of them were Baptist, like all the churches were Baptist. And denomination does not matter to me. If you love God, I love you, and everything around that. But this organization is a branch off of Assemblies of God, and that means we're part of the Pentecostal branch. That means we love to just worship outwardly. So the first day we noticed there was just a few hands risen, but Bethany, she had her mom there, and Bethany's mom was like, "Who is that Chi Alpha with? They sing really loud." And I just thought it was hilarious because I love that our group is just we don't care. I'm going to worship and worship loud, and I thought it was super funny. It's just because everyone else is we actually sang Reckless Love at there, and he's like, oh, the over, and we were like, oh, the over. And we didn't cry, but it was that kind of vibe. All right, I'll do one serious and then I'll be done. So, like I said, I am a ball of energy, and I love being crazy and all that stuff. And we had a kid at Rainbow Express that was just like me. And everyone was like, ah. And I just realized whenever everyone did that, I was like, man, I bet the teachers and like all the adults said that about me. And I was like, man, this guy hurts my feelings, but yes! He was a great kid. Before each time, I would play tag with him and gave him the opportunity to take control of me. So imagine playing, like, you're the only one who's playing freeze tag, but everyone else is playing tag, and I'd be like running after him. He's like, freeze! And I'd just be like frozen, and everyone else is still running. So got to run around, sprint with him and everything. It was so much fun. But the cool thing about it was that, yes, he was a ball of energy. Like during our devotional times, we talked about Moses and just stories about Moses, like going through how he was put on the river and then got to the princess. If you haven't read it, go to Exodus, great story. But we were going through it, and to further extend on his like chaoticness, like during devotion time, he'd be climbing a tree. He would run around, he would do circles, he would try to jump on a kid's scooter. But the whole thing that was awesome was like I got the great opportunity to be like the group leader and like do review with all the kids and ask them questions. He would get it. Like he'd be like, this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And at first, like me, Garrett, and Caleb were the devotional leaders together, and we were all surprised. We were like, he was listening. And it was like really like I was really proud. I was like, man, he listens. But like that all went through, and probably the saddest part was like it was the last day, and he's the kid that always smiling. He's always having fun. We gave him candy. We were giving him a Bible, and I started doing my own thing, and he was over there, and I looked back at him, and I just saw him just like looking away and not looking at anyone. I think Michelle said that she came over and talked to him, and she saw like tears in his eyes. And then I like walked with him home or to his apartment, and I saw him crying. And first off, I'm not a crier. Holy moly, I was close. But like just having seen that kid who's energetic, who thought wasn't paying attention, that we considered rowdy, he was the one who also listened, who got impacted, and that was the biggest takeaway for me. Is like no matter how much chaos there is in the world, if you just listen like to God's voice, like I'm gonna shout out my boy Torrin Wells. There's a song called Close. I hear you whisper when you're close, and that just shows the intimacy that we can have whenever we focus and listen, get in close proximity with God. And yeah, so just seeing him grow, I thought it was amazing.
I think this mission trip, it was really cool to see just everyone. It was really cool to get to see everyone just serve and bring glory to God's name, to be honest. And like, it was, oh my gosh, I'm like breathing in this second. I don't know why I'm out of breath right now. I'm breathing. So it was Sunday, and we got to go to we split up in two, and I got to be with Colton.
Oh yeah.
And
that's great.
yeah. And so I wasn't expecting anything. Actually I was. I thought we were gonna go to like a church or something. Not a church. It was so Mission Arlington, I guess, rented out a room in that apartment complex that we went to, and we were teamed up with Miss Tony. She actually got to go to Brazil and missioned, and that was pretty cool. I don't know, what was the organization she was a part of, where they do like
International Missions Board, IMB, International Missions Board.
Yeah. And so that was like 2 years. Thank you. And so it was really cool just to hear her stories too as to how they work. It's like they provide you like food and shelter and everything, and just for you to go out and be placed in whatever they have for you to like serve and everything. But that was really cool to get to hear her testimony a little bit over that. And when we got to the apartment complex, it was just like this little room. And it's like, we had 3 teenagers. They were kind of like her little helpers a little bit. And it was so cool to get to see that, because it's like, I don't know, it wasn't a lot, and it was in a room, and about like, I guess 10 people came. It was about like 4 youth and 3 adults or something like that. No, that's not 10. Yeah. Yeah. And so half of it was in Spanish and the other half was in English. And I wasn't expecting her to like full out Spanish. I was like, what's happening? No, but they handed us tambourines and stuff, and it was just like, it just makes you look at like a new perspective of things and like what we do have and what we should be like grateful for. And like, even though like I'm not trying to compare the 2 situations, it was just like they were in this little room, and it's like, yet they were still praising God, and I don't know, it was just amazing experience. And then we got the youth, I'm sorry, taking way too long. Okay, the youth teacher that they had, she kind of told her testimony over like how she was in like abusive relationship, and how she got out of that, and how she came to be about Mission Arlington. It's a great organization and just everything. And again, I love how everyone came together just to serve for the purpose of just being amazing people and glorifying God through that. And I don't know, it was an amazing experience, and if y'all ever want to do that, like it's so amazing. And we also talked about other missions like Memphis, and then it was San Antonio. Yes, Allie did that one. Yeah. So no, it's an amazing thing, and love seeing all the smiles on people's faces and how we all came together. So yes.
So my hair's a little bit blue right now, and he told one of my little girls that I was a mermaid because I have blue hair, and he also told her that if she poured water on me, that I would have a mermaid tail. And so I got chased around by a little girl with a cup of water. So that was pretty funny. But I think it was a really awesome experience. One of my favorite parts was doing small groups with the kids, and I wasn't really sure like the first day if they were like totally understanding like the story and what we were talking about, but it was really cool, especially like when Quentin would do like the recap and stuff, to hear them like answer questions, and then like the next day, like 24 hours later, like recall information that we had kind of talked about. So it was really cool to see that it was like making an impact on them. Knocking on doors was a lot of fun. At first, like the first day, Sunday, Daniel and I went to a different apartment complex, and I was a little nervous because I've never like knocked on doors like that before, but as we like kept doing it throughout the week, it got easier, and like it was really fun just to give people stuff.
That's right.
We had a conversation in Caleb's truck on the way back from one of them about how being unsafe for the Lord is okay. And by that, we kind of talked about how like we usually don't take risks in our daily life to get people to Jesus, and it may even like shy us away, like that risk of like doing something for the Lord. So it's even like something as simple as knocking on the door. Colton and I even got like a door slammed in our face, and honestly, that was okay. It was a really good, it was a really good reminder that like we may not be like the final seed that gets someone to Jesus, but we definitely like planted a seed there. So all around, it was a really fun experience. So yeah.
Ian and I were holding the blanket up so no one could see Garrett holding the puppet up, and Garrett does not remember the memory verse. I don't think any of you remember the memory verse, but he took a picture of it with his phone, or else I was holding the phone up for him so he could read it. I was also holding his arm up because his arm was getting tired. It was a whole thing. I was the puppet and I guess Garrett had thought Quentin was done asking him to read the read the memory verse. So he starts putting the Jesus puppet on, ready for Jesus, and then he puts his phone away. And Quentin's like, all right, Eugene, one last time. And he was supposed to get it on his own. And then Garrett's like having a panic attack. He's smacking the Jesus puppet on the ground, trying to get it off his hand. And he's like, I need to study for just 1 second. As he like throws his phone at me, and I have to figure out how to use his Motorola and find his picture of the memory verse. And eventually he finds it, and it was the greatest thing ever. I was dying. I was sitting there like I could not. Thank you, Garrett, for that.
Yeah, it is.
But,
I think it's funny. I also said, Eugene, are you having a panic?
No, he said Eugene, and he seems to be having a panic.
oh my gosh, it was funny. You could hear the panic in the puppet's voice. It was the greatest thing ever.
But I did not break character.
He did.
He did not break character.
It was very funny, but you know, we talked about this a little bit before while we were together in Arlington. But whenever we're here, there's like 2 or 3 days a week that we get to, for me at least, that I spend time like with Jesus, like a lot, like here, like a lot of time with Jesus. And while we were there, I mean, it's like you wake up, from the moment you wake up to the time you go to bed, you're spending all your time with Jesus, and do that for like 6 days straight. And it was just something pretty special. And I really appreciate you guys helping me out there.
So it was a lot of fun, but also a really amazing team. Thankful for those who went and the sacrifices they made in that, and the ministry that happened. And so, as was mentioned, there was this memory verse. If you want to put the memory verse up there, it says, and what was interesting, when I first looked, we read it, and I went to go find it, and then I was like, what translation is this? Like, we went through about 20 different translations, but we finally figured out it was the International Children's Bible translation, which, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of before. But, you know, it says, the Lord is my light and the one who saves me. So why should I fear anyone? The Lord protects my life, so why should I be afraid? And so, one of the things the Lord has been talking to me over probably the last month is a lot about fear, and how fear greatly influences my life, and my ability to make disciples, and my being bold and sharing my faith, and those things like that. And what's interesting is I was reading through 2 Timothy, I guess it was Sunday morning. Yeah, Sunday morning. And I read 2 Timothy 1:7. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, or self-discipline, or whatever translation you have there. And so I would ask you as a first question is, how do you let fear hinder your walk with Jesus? How do you let fear keep you from being generous or sharing with others? Because the greatest gift we can ever share with someone is Christ. It's interesting how, and I'll be honest with y'all, that first day where we knocked on doors, I was like, what is about to happen? Because Allie mentioned it, her and Colton, the one day where someone just slammed the door in their face. And I think, and I don't know, maybe some of us are like this, I'm like this from time to time, is I tend to envision worst case scenario. I imagine the slamming the door in their face, or I imagine someone saying something, I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that. And I think some of us do that. But I think most of us would also say, in us imagining the worst case scenario, rarely does it ever come close to that scenario actually playing out in real life. In fact, I think there's a statistic I saw that was like 80% of the scenarios we play out in our head actually turn out way better than we think. And so, the Lord was challenging me, and in a sense challenging our group, of how are we going to be bold? We're trying to get kids to come and spend each evening with us so we can share Jesus with them. In order to do that, we have to knock on, like the apartment complex we were at, we knocked on every door of that apartment probably 3 times, at least during the week. And so there's faces that we're beginning to be consistent with, but also it's like, we're helping set up an opportunity to do ministry that when we left, Mission Arlington could come in and continue ministry in that apartment complex. And so we're kind of the John the Baptist, if you will, to Jesus. Like, we're a forerunner to him coming and establishing and setting up his ministry. And so what I would say to you is two things. Again, one is, how are you letting fear hinder? But also, are you willing to accept the role that the Lord is calling you to? You know, it could have been easy for us to be like, well, this is our apartment and we're going to do ministry here, and kind of taking this like mine attitude about it. But as was said, like, or we can be the one who are planting the initial seed so that they can come in and continue onward. And so with that, on this idea of knocking on doors and being more evangelistic, being more missional, I guess it was Thursday night over dinner, it was just kind of like, what are we going to do with this? How are we taking this back to Henderson? Because it's like with a missions trip, it is most effective when we leave good fruit there for the harvest to continue, but also we bring some seed back to plant on our campus. And so it's kind of been mentioned already, but really two initiatives. One of creating an opportunity for people to be more engaging with knocking on doors. Now, some of you are like, that's weird. You know, you think of like Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses coming on knocking on doors. And so not always the best thought. I know some of us, when someone knocks on, we're like, hide, get under the, like, I don't know about you, but that's sometimes, like, that's how the house works. I now am not worried, like, if I love when Mormons come knock on our door, because I know enough about Mormonism that I can have conversations with them and show them the difference between that and Christianity. So it's not really something that I'm particularly avoiding unless I'm in a hurry. But for some of us, how are we going to engage knocking on a door and having, okay, so let me ask you this. If you knew that in, let's say, Ridgepoint Building 5, on the second floor, there's a room there. If you knock on that door, talk to that person. Right now, they have just had a tragedy hit their life, and they are longing to find comfort. And if you go talk to them right now, you can share Jesus with them. They will give their life to Christ, and they will become a faithful part of this community, but more importantly, the kingdom, and they will become a disciple maker, a leader, and actually go on to become a youth pastor somewhere. All of us will be running to Ridgepoint right now, because we know the result of the obedience. But how many of us know, like, we don't know the result of our obedience? We just know what God is asking of us, right? And so what I would challenge you is, let God handle the result, you just obey. And give God the opportunity to raise up people to get saved or go into ministry or whatever. And so what we're going to do kind of going forward is, and this is kind of the initiative that was birthed, is at 5 o'clock-ish, or between 5 and 6, we'll meet over and try and start knocking on doors at different apartments. And for some, it's like, well, Caleb, it's April, like the semester's over. Wow. We have someone here that we met today. And so, what if there are more people like Will who would come if we just asked them? Wouldn't we want them to be in our family, right? And so I want to challenge you. You know, we have our band here. They come and practice and set up at 5. But if you want to be here, you can talk to me or Michelle. You can talk to Colton, who's kind of taking initiative with it. And then there'll be others. So just want to encourage you. Ultimately, our vision is to have every dorm, people at each dorm. And that may happen this semester. It may be a fall thing. But we want to, everything that we do sets culture. I'm trying to wrap up, Charles, I'm sorry. Everything we do sets culture. And so asking you specifically, how are you helping build kingdom culture in this ministry and on this campus? How are you helping build that kingdom culture? Because if we build healthy kingdom culture, the kingdom will build itself, because we're walking in the way Jesus calls us to live. Again, I realize that some of us, our seniors, are people that have a very busy schedule. And a lot of times we use our busyness as a reason why I cannot help. Corrington Boone said this: if the devil can't make you bad, he will make you busy. Because busy is saying no, just like bad is saying no. And I realize, God puts things, like he gives us responsibilities and opportunities. But you can say yes to too many things that ultimately make you say no to him. But even, I can do a lot of Christian things, and I can actually push God away in my Christian busyness. And so I just would ask you, in these final days before the Lord returns, whether that's this year, 10 years, 100 years, whatever, each of our lives could end at any moment. And I think as young, I'm including myself in that, young people, there's an immortal aspect of, well, I got the next 80 years of my life to live and get married and have a kid and have grandkids and so on. Make, so much money or whatever. But if we knew the Lord was returning tomorrow, how would we live differently? If we knew the Lord was turning in 10 years, how would we live differently? There is a wisdom that we should live in that is prepared for the long haul. But there's also an eagerness that is ready for the now.